Hi, welcome to Chapter 2 or Module 2 of Fundamentals of Nutrition. I hope you are all getting onto the textbook, either onto KNH or an actual textbook hardcover. So I'm just going to do some highlights, just a few of the slides in this chapter, just to give you an idea what the whole chapter is about. I think there's 3 sets of questions and then 1 essay. The essay is not due till next Monday, the 8th. The questions are due on Friday, as is the quiz for Chapter 2. So just the highlights of this chapter. There is a healthy diet, just the discussion of moderation. In other words, not too large of a serving size, a variety of foods, and then balanced or proportional foods. The variety, basically, as we all know, different kinds of foods. That's why we had the food groups, to make sure we don't eat just grapefruits or one kind of food every day. Proportionality or balance means getting in each food a lot of nutrients, nutrient-dense foods, which they'll go over in this chapter, making sure that the food that you eat has a lot of nutrients for every calorie that it contributes. The next concept will be talking about, well, there it is, nutrient density, which is especially important for people that are eating very few calories, like elderly. Here's an example of, for a female, a soda versus a milk. You can see that on the right, there is a lot of nutrients provided as opposed to the soda. Moderation is talking about portion size, and when you do your 3-day recall, that becomes important. And then physical activity is the other part of just being healthy. 150 minutes per week for adults, 60 per day for children is what's recommended. That's another section on menu planning, like what tools can you use to do menu planning, what counts as a serving. So, of course, if you're going to plan a menu, you want to know how large your serving should be. Here's a big table. You'll see this in your slides. For each of the food groups, what is about a serving? 1 egg is a protein source. 1 ounce of meat is equivalent to 1 ounce of meat, or 1 tablespoon of peanut butter. Usually you eat more than that, but those are considered equivalents to 1 ounce of protein. 1/4 cup of cooked dried beans, and so forth. So those are important, and then even to determine what is a tablespoon or what is an ounce. Usually you eat 3 ounces of meat at one time, which is about like a deck of cards. Usually you have 2 tablespoons of peanut butter at one time, which is like a ping pong ball. And usually you have about a 1/2 cup of a fruit or vegetable, which is like a tennis ball. And a cup would be like a baseball. So those give you an idea of the serving size. The ultimate intent of sound nutrition advice is to promote optimal nutritional status, which is sometimes hard to measure, but there is the hope that you won't be malnourished, which means you fail over a long term to get enough nutritional needs, or to have overnutrition, which just means that you're getting more than you need, more nutrients than your body needs, or undernutrition, which is a long-standing dietary intake that's not enough to meet the needs. So we can assess this with these 5 different methods, the ABCDE of nutritional assessment. Anthropometric will be measuring height, weight. Biochemical will be looking at your blood work, your protein levels in your blood, your iron level. Clinical will be looking at some of your symptoms, your physical, if your skin is dry, if you have cracks at the edge of your mouth, what your body looks like. Dietary will be taking intake information about what you're eating. Environmental will be looking at the stress or what's going on around you that could be causing your nutritional status to be compromised. Another question we'll look at is what RDAs and adequate intakes are, which you've already done. I looked at these charts in your last homework. Basically, it's just noting that there are recommendations for what is the recommended daily allowance for about 98% of the population. In other words, how much vitamin C do most people need to maintain health without getting scurvy or some disease? So it's each of the numbers that you looked at in that chart, in the dietary reference chart, will determine how healthy you could be. The adequate intake, as you noted last week, is given when they don't have as specific information to know exactly how much of a certain nutrient is needed for instance, sodium still does not have an RDA. It hasn't been decided if it's 2,300, 2,500, 2,000, 1,500. How many milligrams of sodium a day is needed is still in question. UL is the upper limit of those nutrients that they know could be toxic at levels above these numbers. And then just the estimated energy requirement is just how many calories do you actually need based on your personal activity, your gender, your height, and so forth. So with all this information we can plan. Labels help with planning. The online My Plate helps with planning. The dietary guidelines that just came out were recently revised. The daily values are what we see on the nutritional fact panel. Those are a little different than the RDA sometimes for different nutrients. Those are all useful tools. Here's a picture of a nutrient fact label, just mentioning the serving size, the calories, and so forth. The basic idea is the 5-20% guide. So for certain nutrients, it's best to look for something over 20%. So for instance, if you want to see if something's a good source of vitamin A or calcium or iron, if you see the percent 20% or over, you know it's a pretty good source. If it's less than, is it 5% or less, it's usually not a great source of that particular nutrient. So this label shows that vitamin A is not a great source, whatever this food is, but it is a good source of calcium. Those are just some little tricks to use. And then also note that on labels there's a lot of claims, health claims. They're regulated by the FDA, whether it can say it's high in calcium, high in vitamin D. All of these numbers and amounts have to be approved. They may also have health claims saying it might prevent cancer, some food might prevent heart disease. These also have to be approved. And lastly, just being careful when you evaluate nutrition information is looking at what the source of the information is. Is it reputable? Who sponsored the research? Was the research something that's repeatable, something that can be done again? So we're looking carefully at all the nutrition information sources. So those are the highlights of Chapter 2. If you have any questions, email me. Okay, thanks.